all that stuff that happened to me happened because I'm always living for today. Today, I choose to delete from my diary 2 days, yesterday and tomorrow. Yesterday has already happened. Tomorrow is the consequence of what I get done today. Today, I choose to be brave enough not to let any opportunity pass me by. Today, I choose to defy every obstacle that appears in my way, trusting that I will succeed. Now, before I get started, I want to ask a question. How many people in the room are right-handed? Okay, grab the pen you got in front of you. I want you to put that pen in your left hand. How many of you are left-handed? Okay, grab the pen that's in front of you. Okay, put it in your right hand. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to write out, scribe, not print. I want you to write out your full first name and your full last name with your wrong hand. Write it out. And when you're done, put your hand up. Okay, some of you have long names. Okay, how did it feel to have to write with your wrong hand? Awkward, uncomfortable, kludgy, takes a lot of thought and takes a lot of concentration. Here's what I want you to do. Take the pen, put it back in the hand you normally use, and let's repeat the process. Full first name, full last name with your regular hand. How did it feel the second time round? Natural, second nature, automatic. How did it get from the way it was when you were in grade 2 or grade 3 to the way it is today? Who says practice? Put your hand up. Okay, I think you're wrong. I heard another word here, started with R. Repetition. So here's why I do this exercise. The only way to get good at something is to do it again and again and again. If you take what I shared with you today and you try it in the safety of your own home and do it with your kids, your cat, your dog, whatever, you don't make mistakes, you're not going to learn. If you take what you learned today that feels uncomfortable, you just simply have to repeat the process, and repeat the process. So the first thing I want to do is I want to help you identify what I think are the best opportunities for you to go chase. And in the summer of 2002, I figured a few things out. And the first thing I figured out was that when I'm out there selling, the people I'm trying to sell to are always in one of 3 different buying modes. First one's called status quo. It's when someone's done the same thing the same way for so long, it's just simple to keep doing the same old thing. If you read the book, you heard about the QWERTY keyboard. We all type that way because that's the way that we've been taught. Here, prospects are happy with what they have and they see no reason to change. The odds they become your customer, on average, pretty close to 0. On occasion, you might get lucky. You might find people that are on the other end of the spectrum, those that are actively engaged in the process of searching for alternatives. They know what they have is no longer sufficient, and they're doing something about it. And the research that I've seen says that on average, you'll get that business maybe 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 7 different times. Okay? The challenge is that before you got there, the decision has already been made. 70% of the time, 75% of the time, customers made the decision by the time they're halfway through the process. That's the bad thing. There is an opportunity, though. So one of the books that I like is by a guy named, he's going to shoot me, Michael Bosworth. He's a mentor. He wrote Consultative Selling. He also wrote Solution Selling. Anybody read any of Michael's books? So for almost 20 years, Michael drove process, right, into everybody. Michael has now changed his tune. He wrote a book a little while ago called What Great Salespeople Do. And what he's figured out is that what great salespeople do is they build a relationship with their prospect. If there's a book that's not on your reading list, the book that Michael wrote, I think, should be on your list, What Great Salespeople Do. Okay? Awesome book. But he says that if you get in first, you get a significant advantage. So how do you get in first? What does that look like? What it looks like is somebody who's unhappy with the status quo. They know they've got a problem, but they're so busy solving other problems, they haven't gone to this problem yet. And earlier this year, I had a chance to do a webinar with Forrester, and Forrester did some research, and their research says that if you get in first, and if you set the decision maker's buying vision, you win the business on average 74% of the time. 3/4 of the time, just by getting there first. What I find interesting is, in 2003, I did my research, and I said 75%, so it has not changed in almost 10 years. So for me, if there's such a thing as a silver bullet in sales, it's this ability to somehow get in front of the right people at the right time. It's timing. So how do you make that happen? For me, what I find interesting is that when you win the deal, you don't just get a customer, you get the best customers. Anybody got some of these? Loyal, profitable, willing to give us references, testimonials, referrals. I would argue that these are the customers you won because you got to them while they're in the window of dissatisfaction. You got there first. You had a great relationship. So this is what you want to find a way to make happen. If I was to give everybody a sheet, something like this, and you went down the sheet and put check marks down the sheet about whether a deal happens short or fast, put a check mark if it happened relatively quickly. Put a check mark again next to their name if it was easy. Put a check mark if they didn't complain about the price or rates in any way, or a check mark again if they're willing to be a reference. My argument to you is anybody you've got 3 or more check marks next to their name, those were the people you got to at exactly the right time. They were in the window of dissatisfaction when you got to them. So that was my first epiphany. There's this thing in the middle called this window of dissatisfaction. But then I couldn't figure something out. How can somebody be in this buying mode of status quo on Monday, be in the window of dissatisfaction on Wednesday, and be searching for alternatives on Friday? What was different? What had changed? And I look back at all the 6, 7, 8-figure deals that I'd done, and here's what I realized. People that I'd gotten in front of had recently had an event. And I want to make sure everybody understands the difference between an event and a circumstance. So here's the guy on the screen, okay? Married man. Every day, wakes up older, heavier, grayer, balder. Does he go by Rogaine to make his scalp grow back? No, because he's married. Status quo. What's the event that makes him go by Rogaine? He gets a divorce. That's an event. So I want to make sure everybody in the room understands the difference between a circumstance and an event. Okay? Now, it turns out that way back then, there wasn't a lot of research, but Andrew Gaffney did some research in 2011, and here's what he figured out. 77% of major purchases that happen inside an organization are unplanned. They're not budgeted for at the beginning of the year. They happen on the fly as the year goes along. So understand the difference between a circumstance and an event. If you have a customer that maybe has falling sales or shrinking margins, that's a circumstance. Okay? If they're unhappy with their current banker, unfortunately, more times than not, that is a circumstance. There has to be something that happens that makes them change. A classic example of an event is when a competitor gets acquired. All of a sudden they realize, hey, we have to do something in the marketplace, because when two organizations come together, they spend a lot of money trying to grow the business that they're in. I now need to do something. Or if their current bank gets acquired, which unfortunately I think you've gone through, some of those customers left as a result of that. While that may have worked against you in the past, I think it will work for you in the future. Other banks will get acquired. Their customers are pickings to go chase. They become unhappy along the way. Maybe they win a large customer contract. Now they need to make an investment in more machinery, a different facility. Okay? A family member leaves the business. So I was looking at the resource center that marketing puts together, which I think is an awesome tool for you to use. And I'm reading all these examples, and I saw again and again and again the same event. That a family member bought out their parents or bought out their brother. The business was transitioned. That helped them become your customer. That was the event.